Culture gaps. Culture gaps. Culture gaps. Culture gaps. Culture gaps.
Welcome to Culture Gaps, everybody, where we watch movies one of us hasn't seen.
What even is that?
Right?
Is that just like a ding dong in your mouth?
No, I'm eating a cupcake.
Oh, a cupcake.
Yeah,
Guess that makes sense.
you love on-screen eating. I figured it'd be the same.
I do love on-screen eating. I don't love on-mic eating.
This is dry.
I don't think most listeners like on-mic eating either. It's very triggering for a lot of people.
Well, I'll throw a tag for mukbang on this one. We'll get some extra viewers.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome to Culture Gaps, the podcast.
Culture Gaps.
Yeah, that one, where we talk about movies that we haven't seen, big pop culture movies that we haven't seen. My name is Gregg,
I'm Mike.
and we're just going to get into it today. We're talking about a movie that I haven't seen, and Mike has something prepared for me.
Yes, I do. And this is a movie that I have only seen recently
Oh,
for the first time in the past, 3 years.
wow. So this was a Culture Gap movie for you, too.
It was.
Interesting.
Now, I will let you know that I saw it for the first time, and I actually really liked it.
Yeah,
I was into it, even though it's older.
maybe we should say what it is.
Oh, yeah, we told them last time, and this is the movie based on the SNL sketch. It is Wayne's World.
Party time.
Party time. I chose this movie because not knowing what Gregg actually likes in comedy that much, I still thought this would be a movie he would enjoy watching. And now I feel that I'm saying it, that you won't because I said it, just to
Right.
spite me.
Yeah, probably. I am notoriously vindictive.
Notoriously. Kind of a bad dude.
Yeah. No, I'm curious about this one. I certainly know a lot about this movie. I feel like I've had the whole thing quoted
Really?
to me. But I couldn't tell you what happens in it. Like I can't imagine there's a plot to this movie in any way. In my mind, it's just a series of unconnected events of these two guys just talking about like bad 80s hair metal, basically, and that's kind of the whole movie. But I guess we'll see. Maybe there's a plot of some sort.
Do you need one?
I like there to be a plot in a movie, but I guess it's not a requirement. If the rest of the movie is so good, it makes up for it.
Okay. Because when I watch this movie, it's not one that I compared to really anything else. It's kind of I don't know, I just enjoyed it for what it specifically was, and it was in its own league.
Yeah.
So I'm real interested for you to watch this just because I literally don't know how you feel about a lot of things in this movie, but it seems like something you like. I don't know how you feel about the actors in this movie.
Yep.
I don't know how you feel about specifically this age of SNL or this skit. If you've ever, I don't think you've seen it.
Yeah.
Based on what we've been talking about, or this style of comedy in general.
Yeah, so I have not seen the sketch on which the movie was based. I think it was a series of sketches. I think they were recurring characters. In terms of Dana Carvey and Mike Meyers, I would say I am passionately indifferent.
Really?
I just don't care about either of them in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, I find it really weird that someone is passionately indifferent about Mike Myers. That's
Who cares about him?
really.
I loved Austin Powers when I was younger, but now it's just
Okay.
well, whatever. He has his moments.
You're a millennial.
Yeah. Do millennials love Mike Myers? Is
I
that
feel
like a
they
thing?
do. What about Shrek?
Shrek's okay. It kind of ruined a lot of movies and kids' movies and stuff. It's very cynical.
To be fair, when I say what about Shrek and say that millennials should have loved Mike Myers and Shrek, I am a millennial and I never liked Shrek. But
Yeah.
I find it weird to be indifferent about him. I don't know, because he's in so much of our media as millennials.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just don't. I never loved him. I never thought he was that funny, but he was in movies that I thought were funny. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, oh, I don't enjoy Mike Myers, but some of his body of work I enjoyed when I was a child. But
Okay. So you don't hate him, at least.
no, that's why I say I'm indifferent.
Indifferent,
I
yeah.
just don't care.
There's
about
nothing you
him.
love.
No, I just
Okay.
And I feel the exact same way about Dana Carvey. Like, I just don't. I don't hate him. I just don't care.
That one's much more reasonable, in my opinion.
In my mind, Mike Myers and Dana Carvey are the same.
In my mind, saying you're indifferent about Mike Myers is like saying you're indifferent about Will Ferrell. Like,
I am indifferent about Will Ferrell.
oh my God. I feel like it's just someone you should have a notable opinion about.
He's done a couple interesting things, but, some uninteresting things. I just, like, Will Ferrell being in a movie is never going to make me go see it, but it's also not going to repel me from watching it,
Wow,
I just don't care.
It is literally a defining quality of a movie that will make me go see a movie.
Is Will Ferrell being in it? You like him
In
that
fact,
much?
In fact,
Will
I actually
Ferrell?
have. Yeah, get this. I have
The
a
guy
movie
who plays
that
the
you've been
same character in every movie?
Oh yeah, genius.
The guy who just goes, I'm freaking out! And that's it. He just shrieks. That's his whole thing.
Listen, it's funny you say this because the next movie I'm going to have you watch is going to be a movie with Will Ferrell in it.
Oh, God.
So
Kicking and screaming or something.
don't even worry. We're not watching Kicking and Screaming on this podcast. But let's get back to this.
Okay.
Now I'm worried you're not going to like this movie.
I don't know. I think my guess is that I will be indifferent about this movie. I'll be like, yeah, it probably was funny when it came out in the 90s, and now it's not anymore.
All right, what happens in this movie in your mind?
All right, here is actually everything I know. Wayne's World is the name of a radio show that these two guys host, and they just like 80s hair metal, and that's it. And they go to like a music store at one point, and one of them starts playing Stairway to Heaven, and the employee points to a sign that says no Stairway to Heaven. That's one of the jokes in the movie. Then later they're in the car listening to Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, and they headbang during the heavy part of that song.
So you've seen this movie.
And then there's also a scene where they meet someone like Slash or Ronnie James Dio or some hair metal guy, and they bow down and say, we're not worthy, we're not worthy. That's everything I know about this movie. And I believe I believe those three scenes are from the beginning, middle, and end as well, in the way I just ordered them. But I have no idea what connects those three things. And that's why, in my mind, this movie is just a series of unconnected just events that don't have anything to do with one another.
Of those three unconnected events.
Yeah, it's just those three things for an hour and a half.
To be real honest with you, I'm a little concerned with how the second half of this podcast is going to go.
Oh.
It's interesting because the subject matter of this movie is not something I would think I would be into. Because I'm not real into that music.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly passionate about Dana Carvey like you.
Right.
I have strong feelings about Mike Myers and some of his work.
Yeah, you're a big fan? Or you're
some.
not a fan?
It's honestly, it's hit or miss. I don't say you need to be like passionately for or against him, but like have strong opinions about their movies. Kind of like Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I think part of why I haven't... I mean, it sounds like you're basically confirming that my impression of this movie is dead on. But, I mean, yes. I guess that's why I haven't seen it is because, A, I just don't care about the two leads. And B, I feel like I've seen clips and had this movie quoted to me so much that I never needed to see it.
That's the part I'm worried about. I'm afraid that because you've heard all these quotes and these scenes from the movie that maybe you're going to watch it and feel like it's already played out or like that there's not much better.
Right.
Slightly worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I fully expect to happen.
I expect that to happen too now that we've had this conversation. However, again, I watched this movie like within the last 3 years for the first time.
Right.
Didn't like the subject matter, and I actually enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
And get this, I'm not really a fan of SNL.
That I don't think is controversial at all.
I don't think it is.
I think a lot of people aren't that into it anymore.
Yeah.
But also, I'm not a huge SNL guy either. But yeah, I guess we'll see what this movie has in store for me. Maybe I'll like it. I am a big fan of comedy in general, and a movie doesn't need to necessarily be super cohesive in order to be funny. So maybe I'll enjoy it just on its merits as a comedy.
Look, at the very least, I hope you have some sort of passionate feeling about this movie.
If anything, I'll be, passionately indifferent.
Oh, that's what I'm not hoping for.
All right. Well, Mike's finishing his cupcake. It's time for us to go watch this movie. We're going to shoot it into our eyeballs, and we'll be back in the time it takes for this little jingle to play.
Oh, God, do I have enough time to eat this cupcake?
Yeah. Shove it down your throat right now.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Culture Gap.
5, 4, 3.
Welcome back. We just watched Wayne's World.
Party time.
Excellent.
Yeah, now we can do it.
Yeah, I know the whole thing now.
You know the whole movie. You kind of did.
I thought I knew more about this movie than I did, to be honest. The like 3 scenes that I mentioned in the intro of this, that's all I knew about this movie. Everything else was brand new to me.
Oh, it's packed in there. There's just stuff constantly from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's true. It's a very dense movie, I guess, with jokes.
Dense
and
movie.
A lot of catchphrases, constant catchphrases.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can get this right off we can both admit this movie is stupid, like you said. But that's the point.
But it's trying to be. Yeah. There's a great tradition of stupid movies that are great, like Zoolander and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which I feel like we should talk about because that movie came out 3 years before this one. And is kind of the exact same thing, but with like a sci-fi premise. To the point where they say like, excellent, and party on, dudes. Like, it's the same, it's kind of the same exact thing. It's just like 2 slacker stoner friends who, loosely play music together and go on adventures.
I feel like there's a lot of movies like that at this time. Like,
it's true.
This was the culture then, right?
Yeah, and then I guess you get Dumb and Dumber a couple years later and things like that. But I don't know, something about Bill and Ted feels just so similar to Wayne's World to me, like with the long hair and the obsession with guitar music and them just being sort of like stoner slackers. I don't know. There's just something that felt very similar about them to me. And I have to admit that I prefer Bill and Ted to this movie.
Well, is that because you saw Bill and Ted before, and now you're just seeing this now?
It might be. I did watch Bill and Ted a lot when I was a kid as well. So I have a lot of nostalgia for it.
That'll do it.
But I don't think it's just that. I think there's also the fact that Bill and Ted has this really outlandish premise, a very, very high concept premise where they're traveling through time and picking up famous historical figures for their like high school book report. And I don't even think it's just Bill and Ted, like even another, sort of dumb movie I just mentioned, Zoolander, also has a really high concept plot where like the main character is brainwashed into assassinating the leader of Malaysia or whatever, the prime minister. And it's just like, I feel like this movie would have benefited from either going a lot more outlandish and cartoony or making the 2 main characters the only crazy ones and then everyone else is just kind of normal. But this movie, I feel like for the most part, everyone is just kind of like loves Garth and Wayne, and they're all kind of quirky. No one is really a normal person in this movie except maybe Rob Lowe. But, you know, he's basically just, yeah, but he's like a 80s douche. He's Tom Cruise in Rain Man.
Yeah. I don't feel particularly passionate about this movie. Like I said, I only saw it 3 years ago, but I like it. But I also like Bill and Ted, and I love Zoolander.
Yeah.
Very passionate about Zoolander. So
Same.
I don't know. I just feel like I like this brand of movie. It's a parody, and I feel like it's so absurd, but also endearing. Like the characters are so likable in this movie.
Yeah, that is the big thing that really saved this movie for me, I think, is that the characters are a lot more likable than you'd expect from the premise.
So likable. Like, how can you not love Garth?
I was shocked at that, actually. So in my mind, I was like, okay, everybody knows Wayne, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's who you think of. And then I was like, well, Garth, he's just Wayne too. But watching this movie, I was like, no, he has his actual own characterization. He's kind of anxious and awkward, doesn't do well in social situations, doesn't really know how to talk to people. He avoids eye contact a lot. Like, there's something very endearing about him because he seems very vulnerable and
adorable. Cute.
Yeah.
He's so cute.
I don't know about that.
He is. Oh, man.
I don't know if I would say that. You like his overbite?
Yeah, I do. I think he's so adorable in this movie, and he always has these side like stories going on, which make him even more quirky. Like Wayne's doing his own thing, and the movie's moving with him, but Garth is doing these random, strange things at the same exact time, like the whole taser scene where he tases the guy in the club.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about that.
Or he just goes under the table and does a rant on Twilight Zone. Like,
Right.
There's just these random things he's always doing on the side that have nothing to do with the movie.
It's true. And it's fun when he pulls you in as well. Like, he pulls the camera in and it's like, come on, like gestures with his eyes, like follow me. You know, at first I really didn't think I was going to like all the direct address in this, like the, you know, talking to the camera and breaking the fourth wall and referencing what's happening and all that stuff. But it kind of grew on me as it went with the direct address because they play around with it and they break the format a bit, and you know, there's some fun stuff there. But it did grate on me a little bit after a while. Like, the movie is just so intent on meta commentary. It's like this very Mel Brooks-ian kind of comedy style, I feel like, where it's like lots of parody and fourth wall breaking and like, let's try to be as clever as we can and let's lampshade everything. And
do you like Mel Brooks?
I loved Mel Brooks when I was a kid, and now I think fondly on some of his movies, but I just think that comic sensibility just doesn't really work for me as much anymore.
Wow. There's some Mel Brooks stuff that I really do love.
Yeah. Like what?
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
I remember loving that as a kid, but I haven't
so
seen
good
it
still. I love it
in a long time.
I really like Mel Brooks' sense of humor, and I mean, we've established this early on that I just love satire and parodies of things. So
yeah,
this movie kind of did that for me. Like, I knew I grew up much later, but I knew kids like this who were still trying to be this type of person, like the stoner kids.
Yep.
So this kind of hit home for me when I saw it only like 3 years ago. So
yeah, I think one thing that really struck me watching this movie, you know, talking about that sort of slackerdom idea, is like this movie feels like it wouldn't be made now, not because there's anything problematic about it, but because what's problematic about it?
There's
the swing stuff.
Maybe a little bit.
The Cantonese. Yeah. Oh my God. How did I forget?
I was like,
Jesus.
You had to have written that down.
Oh my God. I did.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. Yeah.
I was cringing at that.
I forgot about that. All the Cantonese stuff is extremely weird and cringy by 2022 standards.
When he makes the kung fu fighting joke.
Yeah, or cream of some young guy
Yeah.
is pretty problematic as well.
Different times, man. Different times.
Very different.
We keep doing these
times.
older movies. This is going to keep happening.
I mean, this was literally 30 years ago, this movie came out.
Wow.
But I feel like the big reason why this movie doesn't hold up in 2022, or wouldn't be made now, I guess. It holds up, but it wouldn't be made now because selling out is just not a thing that exists anymore. Nobody would begrudge you selling out. Like, this movie is all about this idea of like, you have to maintain your integrity and stay independent and low budget because the man will just ruin whatever it touches. And if you go with the man, you're selling out and it's going to be bad for you and ruin the integrity of your art. But now in 2022, everyone has their own brand. They're all trying to make it. If somebody hits it big, everyone's just like, good for you. I'm glad you made it. That's what I'm trying to do too.
Ooh, capitalism won, my dude.
It's just really funny watching it now, like this sort of slacker attitude of like, oh, I'll just live in my mom's basement and make this public access show. And get a hot girlfriend out of it or whatever. I just don't think that's just not the dream anymore. It's more like, holy shit, there's no way for me to afford getting out of my parents' basement because I'm struggling to make ends meet. I would love to sell out.
I would love it. I almost want to consider this movie a period piece. Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, eventually we're going to have to consider, like, 80s movies period pieces, right? Like,
Well,
this is so into the culture of the 80s, like...
I feel like period piece means it's, like, set earlier than it was produced. But, yeah, I take your point, though, that it certainly is, like, this is very much of its time. Like, gigantic phones and everything.
Very much. And all the music references, like, that's a huge part of the movie.
Oh, yeah. Alice Cooper,
Stairway to Heaven.
Yep.
Everyone knows that quote. You knew that quote.
Yeah, the no stairway.
Yeah. It was apparently because they couldn't, like, play Stairway in the movie.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin notoriously will not license their music for movies. So I'm sure they asked and were denied, and that's why Mike Meyers says, denied.
Denied.
Yeah, this movie is kind of dated, though. You're right. Like, there were a bunch of references and parodies that I was like, boy, like, I'm surprised I even know these references.
Like, the references when they're selling out, like the commercials that they do. Like, they're like, the next generation, the orange pills, like, little
new print. Or the Grey Poupon commercial parody.
Yeah. That,
like where they pull up and... Yeah, like, because there was, at the time, that commercial was really famous. So everybody knew it as a reference. Or like the Laverne and Shirley intro.
That's what it is. I was trying to look it up and I couldn't figure it out because that went right over my head. Like, that whole bit. I'm like, this seems funny, but I don't know what it is.
I probably only know about this stuff because I've dated a lot of older gay men. But yeah, I did know the Laverne and Shirley reference. But I was like, yeah, I mean, at this point in 2022, someone watching this movie would be so fucking confused by that whole sequence. Like, why are they doing this?
Can you imagine a Gen Zer watching this movie? They wouldn't understand any of it.
I feel like they would actually enjoy it, though, because it's very gentle and kind.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like Rob Lowe is kind of a douche, but he's actually not a big part of this movie at all.
No.
Like, he kind of screws things up a little bit in the last, 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
But the first hour of this movie, there's, no stakes. It's just, friends hanging out in their hometown doing whatever.
Yeah.
Watching planes.
I love that bit.
That was a really cute scene.
Did you read anything about that? Because I had read that they were filming that scene, anything that has to do with the plane on top of the car. They were filming that scene on the last day of the shoot, and they were exhausted. And Mike Meyers was in a giggle fit because he was so tired, and they were improvising things, and he's legitimately laughing at the Bugs Bunny joke that Dana Carvey's does.
Yeah, It's funny. I actually had a note that was like before I even looked anything up. I had a note that said, "Why do I feel like Dana Carvey improvised the Bugs Bunny thing and Mike Myers is really actually laughing at it?"
Because he is, and they did. It's great.
But here's the funny thing: what I looked up is that Mike Myers laughing in that scene is him laughing at a different joke that Dana Carvey made. And they edited it together. Like, Dana Carvey did improvise the Bugs Bunny line, but then there was a different joke that made Mike Myers laugh even more, so they edited that in instead.
Wow. I want to know what that joke is.
Me too.
Was it funnier?
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. So, getting into some trivia, Mike Myers was very unhappy in the post-production of this movie. He and the director really butted heads at the end of this movie in post-production because Mike Myers felt like there were a lot of other takes and other jokes that were funnier that didn't make it into the final cut. And like even watching with a test audience, there were some jokes that didn't get a laugh. And he just like wanted to replace them all because he thought they were horrible. And he like got into a lot of fights with the director about it to the point where he blocked her, the director, from directing the sequel because he was just like so mad at her for
when you say like
post-production
block someone, I'm like on Facebook, like things are different now. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, he prevented her from directing the sequel.
Oh, okay. The director, Spheris. We actually got a woman director.
Spheris.
That's awesome.
I know. And this movie shattered records for films directed by a woman. Like, this was far and away the highest grossing movie ever directed by a woman director.
Did you know this was directed by a woman when you were watching it?
Well, I mean, I saw it in the opening credits.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
If you read the opening credits.
Yeah. And also it was, co-written by a woman as well. Bonnie Turner wrote this with her husband, Terry Turner. They both wrote on Saturday Night Live together.
Wow.
And they also wrote Coneheads.
Oh, have you seen Coneheads?
I have seen Coneheads.
Okay.
I loved it as a kid.
Just checking. Did you see her other, Spears' other movie, a little movie called Little Rascals?
Yes.
Okay.
I did watch
Just
Little
checking.
Rascals as a kid.
Because I
90s
love Little Rascals.
Reboot. I loved it when I was a kid, and I feel like I would
Still
rather
do.
gouge my eyes out than watch it again as
No
an
way.
adult.
Still great. I got a pickle bit.
No,
Best thing ever. I
no.
love that kid. I got a pickle. That kid.
I cannot believe that movie holds up.
Wow.
On a rewatch as an
I can't
adult.
imagine the rest of it does.
There's no way.
Is that the movie that Donald Trump is in at the
He's
end?
in a lot of movies.
Isn't he at the end in the kart race? He's in the stands. I
He
feel
very
like he
well
is.
could be. I don't know.
Oh man,
He was in a lot of stuff for a long time. I mean, he was like 70 when he got elected to office. He lived a long life.
wow. From Little Rascals to the Oval Office.
The American dream.
So somewhere there was WWE in the middle, doing some wrestling.
Yeah. But yeah, Mike Myers apparently was a nightmare on this movie.
That's what I heard.
As he always is. His reputation in general is that he is horrible to work with.
Yeah, I read that he demanded that Bohemian Rhapsody scene be in the movie, even though
Yep.
he didn't think it was funny. He wanted it in there.
Well, what I heard was that the studio wanted it to be a Guns N' Roses song, and he insisted it had to be Bohemian Rhapsody. But he was really mad about the way the scene played out. He didn't want to do the scene, but he demanded that it had to be Queen.
Well, I'm glad it played out the way it did, because that part of the intro really set the tone of the movie for me. I love that part. And when it starts headbanging, I started headbanging. Like, I don't know how you cannot. It's so fun.
Yeah. Well, apparently they all really hurt their necks really badly doing that. So maybe it's not as fun if you're doing it take after take after take.
Oh, I bet.
But yeah, I actually, I'm also glad it played out that way as well, because Freddie Mercury apparently did get to see that scene very shortly before he died, because he died, a couple months before this movie came out. And this movie was also, is largely credited for revitalizing Queen's popularity in the U.S. because apparently Queen was only really popular in Europe at that point. Like the US just didn't care about them anymore, to the point where Queen didn't even come to the US on their last two tours.
What?
They just didn't bother because the US didn't care.
Man, if Freddie Mercury could see it now, people
Oh
love
my
Queen.
God. Yeah, if Freddie Mercury knew how huge that Queen and he as a person became posthumously, like, wow.
Are you a Queen fan?
Queen's okay. I used to love them a lot. I used to love Bohemian Rhapsody. I actually mouthed the words along and did the whole headbanging scene for my sister when I was in high school.
Oh, you seem like you would have been in the group of kids that all got in a circle and sang Bohemian Rhapsody at the school dance. If you were there.
Oh, I mean, I was at school dances, but I went to a teeny tiny private Christian school where I had like literally 30 kids in my class.
These are Christians with teeny tiny privates?
Yeah, exactly. Just like me. And dances didn't play out like that. Bohemian Rhapsody never played at a dance.
Oh, they couldn't have played Queen at that school? Oh,
although, funnily enough, this was like the, mid 2000s when hardcore was really popular. And there were a couple of Christian hardcore bands like, Avenged Sevenfold or whatever.
So hardcore.
So sometimes at the school dances, they would play like one hardcore song. And then like the 5 hardcore kids in my high school would like start like open up a pit and like start thrashing, like hardcore dancing around the pit. And everyone would just like watch them and be like, when's the slow dance coming on?
Yeah, there was
so cringy.
I mean, in my public school experience, there was not a single dance where Bohemian Rhapsody did not play. Like,
That's
and there was a group of kids that all sang it together like that. Like, there was not a single one.
Well, like I was just saying, I mouthed this to my sister in the car. And we were both in the back seat when we were in high school. My mom was driving, but I mouthed this to my sister because she had never heard it before. She was like 16 or 17 and had never even heard of the song. And she thought it was so funny that I knew every single word and was like, elaborately mouthing it. But, at my school, I guess all of this is to say at my school, this certainly was never played, and this was a song I had to discover very much on my own.
Wow. Let's talk Al Bundy.
Yeah, I liked when he took over the director dress. That was fun.
Yeah, it was so weird. I love it.
That's what I loved about it, is it got dark. It was another moment where I wished that this movie had more of a juxtaposition between the two main characters and the world around them. Where, like, this movie very much just sets up that, like, Aurora, Illinois is just Wayne's World town. Everybody knows them and loves them. Everybody is quirky. Even the cops are quirky and kind. Like everything is fine in this town. So then when Ed O'Neill comes in and starts talking about how, it's a shame that killing a man in the heat of passion is described as murder. It's like a great juxtaposition between the sort of kind, sweet tone of this movie and the sort of darkness of
murder vibes.
Murder.
When Al Bundy becomes Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
I also really like any scene where Wayne's ex-girlfriend Stacy comes in.
Oh boy, I did not.
I love it so much when she brings him the gun rack. And he's just like,
yeah.
Why would I ever need a gun rack? He's like,
you want to hear a little trivia about that?
Oh, I do. Hit me with it.
Apparently, Mike Meyers, one of his ex-girlfriends, actually did that. Gifted him a gun rack. Meant as a joke. Like, they were sort of in a rocky place, and she thought it would make him laugh to give him a gun rack. And he didn't think it was funny, and they ended up breaking up. But then Mike Myers wrote it into this movie, and she saw it later in the theaters, like just watching the movie, saw this moment and realized that he had like taken it from her life and characterized her as this insane like hose
Wow.
or whatever they keep calling women in this movie.
Wow, there's a couple things I've learned about Mike Myers from this. Is that he does not seem fun. He seems like
No.
he seems like a comedian who has no sense of humor when other people are joking. Like he's just always joking,
Right.
and then all of a sudden someone else is joking. He's like immediately serious.
Yeah, he doesn't yes and, he just no buts. He's just like, no, but what about this instead?
The other part is that apparently he steals these things that are from people's lives.
Yeah.
He had a falling out with Dana Carvey after this movie because Dana Carvey claimed that Mike Myers stole Dr. Evil impression from him for Austin Powers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. I believe it. I believe Dana Carvey.
Wow. Mike Myers probably didn't find it funny at the time and was like, I might keep that for later. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, interestingly, Mike Myers developed Wayne as a solo character originally back in his Second City days. It was just like a solo character he did on stage for live performances. And then when he brought it to SNL, they were like, you know, they pressured him into adding another character. And so he asked Dana Carvey to do it.
I don't think this would have worked without Dana Carvey.
I totally agree. I think Wayne is a good character. I love the squinty smile that he does. That's like a great character choice. It's so perfect. It's just like this great little like stony kind of smile. I love it. But I absolutely agree that Garth is like the heart of the movie.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't work without him.
I feel like that I have friends that are like Garth.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so it really, I don't know, he just brings this endearing quality to the movie that is so lovable. And that's why I think I like this movie when I saw it today, because I still have people, like half the people in Northampton, Massachusetts are like Garth. Like, I don't,
Yeah, he's kind of a Jay Mascis type.
yeah.
I agree. I think Garth is a great character. I think they play off each other really well, and that's
for sure.
And that's what really makes the movie is just the two of them. Because at the end of the day, this is just a hangout movie. Like, there's no real stakes. There's no real plot. Like, there's very, very loosely this thing where just like Rob Lowe is kind of exploiting them, but kind of not. Like, he just is asserting some creative control over their show, but like that's kind of
really
it.
not.
Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like the worst stakes that happen is just like they quit the show. That's kind of it. Like, that's the worst that happens in the movie.
Well, he fires him from the show.
Yeah. And then, you know, they have the whole apocalyptic ending, right? Where
Yeah.
there's the fake out where the whole house burns down and Garth dies or whatever. I don't know about the all the fake out endings, to be honest. I read that it was just meant to be like a play on all the alternate endings of movies that were coming out around the time. Because they would, you know, screen things for audiences and just reshoot the endings of movies based on audience feedback. But watching it now, it just feels like, well, you're just delaying. Let's just get to the ending. Did you just need to pad out the runtime of this movie?
Probably. I'm surprised they were able to fit so much into that time. Like, it doesn't seem like they were padding. It seemed like they had so much to do. Like, it was packed. Like you said, it was such a dense movie. They're constantly trying to do one-liners, like, through the entire movie.
Yeah, which also was, you know, another piece that I think that didn't click with me for this movie. Like, I don't think this movie's unfunny, but it didn't make me laugh. And I think one of the reasons it didn't work for me is, you know, this sort of style of humor that's based a lot around weird slang and catchphrases and one-liners and stuff like that, where, like, you know, this movie is credited for popularizing, like, that's what she said and excellent and, you know, ending something with not, you know, stuff like that. Like, all that stuff is, like, you know, goes back to this movie. I mean, this movie didn't originate those things, but it popularized them and made them the cliches that they are now. And I think it just reminds me of like Napoleon Dynamite or Borat or something, where you just heard it quoted to death for so long that it just turns you off to it. So
Yeah.
it's just like watching this movie now is like all these catchphrases. It's just like, ugh, I'm getting tired of it.
That's
know?
fair. You said something that kind of just clicked with me, is that you said this movie didn't really make me laugh. And
Yeah.
I think that's the case for me too. I don't remember laughing at this movie, but I think what I enjoy about it is that, I don't know, it's so lighthearted and enjoyable to watch that even though it didn't make me laugh, it was just a fun time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it wasn't necessarily hilarious, but there are some parts that are really funny.
Yeah, and it's just a very, sweet kind of, as you said, lighthearted movie.
Yeah, it's just enjoyable in my opinion. I don't know. I just find it enjoyable.
Yeah, it makes me think of there's this episode of the Sarah Silverman program where her like cop brother-in-law, I think, starts doing comedy, and he does a performance, and it's just like extremely tame. There's like no bite to the jokes at all. It's just like the most basic, like for kids kind of comedy. And someone leans over to his wife and it's just like, I don't get it. Am I supposed to laugh? And she's like, only a little bit. It's gentle comedy. And I feel like that's this movie is like, you're only supposed to laugh a little bit. It's gentle comedy. It's not going to make you like pee your pants laughing. It's just gentle comedy that's going to make you laugh a little, go, that's nice.
Yeah.
And then you feel good at the end of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. There are some lines in it that I think are genuinely funny.
Agreed.
There is the part where they get the chroma key for the first time, and they're doing the states. Little commercial for each of the states, and they get to Delaware.
I'm in Delaware. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
love
great.
that.
That's just like a classic. But that's the thing. So that scene and the end credits scene, the stuff that plays over the credits at the end of the movie, I thought that was the best part of the movie, the most likable that Garth and Wayne are the whole time. And then I realized, well, that's just what the SNL sketches were.
Yeah.
So maybe these guys just need to kind of be in this context where they're just like sitting, they're just doing their own show. Like, I would have almost liked this to just be an hour and a half of them doing their own show.
Of doing Wayne's World. You just wanted him to do Wayne's World.
Yes.
For a living.
Like, when they're doing Wayne's World, they both light up in this way that they don't when they're, when they're not on camera. And I think that makes sense, and I think that actually could have been a really interesting dynamic to explore in the movie, is like the sort of persona that Garth puts on when the camera is rolling versus who he is when he tries to talk to another human being in real life. I think highlighting that could have been really interesting, but again, I just feel like this movie didn't quite take the premise as far as it could, or highlight how interesting and unique these characters are by contrasting them with something a little different.
I wanna bring something up that we've talked about previously on this podcast, as we call it.
Yeah.
And that is that Mike Meyers, Wayne, was wearing whitey tighties.
Yeah.
Did you catch that? I want to make sure.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the year this took place?
This was 1992.
All right. Not quite when boxer briefs became popular yet, right?
That's correct. Boxer briefs only really started becoming popular in like the late 90s, I think.
Okay. Here's one thing I did notice about the clothing in this movie, and I really wanted to bring this up because I found this really interesting, is that there's a scene where they go to Rob Lowe's penthouse or whatever the hell he's in. And he is wearing the most baggy ass suit I've ever seen in my life. It is ridiculous that suits looked like that back then. And I was looking at Wayne and Garth and I was like, people dress like Wayne and Garth now? And that baggy suit is ridiculous for the time.
Right. At the end, Rob Lowe says something about having like really nice clothes or something. And I was like, does he? Like, the clothes he wears look insane in this movie.
So weird.
But Garth and Wayne, for sure. I mean, their looks are pretty timeless.
Yeah.
That's just how hipsters look.
Yeah, that's how hipsters look now.
Right.
Like, you are wearing Garth's outfit currently.
Yeah, that's what I have on right now.
Like
while
you
we're
have the
recording
glasses. Even your hair is doing that Chewbacca thing.
Yeah, and I've got the overbite.
Yeah. You're basically Garth.
Yeah, I am Garth. Actually, I was thinking about this movie. I was like, if we were to assign labels, I am Garth and you are Wayne.
That's fair.
For sure.
I like it. I like Wayne
Yeah.
too. I'm in the boat of liking both these guys.
I
Actually,
agree, yeah. Wayne has his moments.
I love how Wayne reacts to everything. I think it's hilarious. Like anytime anything happens in the movie, like he meets another person or some situation happens, he has the most hilarious reaction to it. But I really like the three dudes who work on their set and how ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, those guys are great.
The beginning of the movie when they're working on Wayne's World and like things start sparking and he just starts hitting things with a wrench. Did you notice that? Like,
No,
I love
missed
little
that.
tiny things like that. They're just so absurd, and they just kind of
Yeah,
subtly put
agreed.
it into the movie.
Yeah, the background stuff was great. Like, in the penthouse scene, when they're toasting and Garth doesn't have a glass of champagne, so he just reaches in with his empty hand and does a cheers anyway.
I didn't
Even though
notice
he's not
that.
holding anything. Yeah, it's just like a great little background.
There's so many
gag.
little things that you just like
Yeah.
don't pick up on. It's funny because there's another moment where he toasts, which is hilarious too, which is when they're in the bar talking to Rob Lowe and he orders that gigantic, ridiculous drink. And he's like picking at it while they're talking and like
I
did
know,
cheers
the
with
biggest drink in the world, like a scorpion bowl.
it. Yeah, it's massive.
I also really liked the Oscar clip bit.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I thought that was great when he throws his hands
a
in the
lot
water.
of fun. I loved that. Like him just saying cliches in a dramatic voice was I just thought it was really funny. Like it
Literally-
still holds up to this day.
It's so absurd. He reaches his hands in the water glass, throws it on
Yeah.
his eyes like he's crying, and then text pops up, Oscar clip. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of fourth wall breaking stuff that I like because it's so over the top that it's like an absolute cartoon. Like there's nothing grounded in reality
oh
anymore.
yeah.
Although I didn't love the cavity search jokes.
Oh,
Where Rob Lowe gets apparently fingered against his will, and then is like we get to watch him limp into the house like 5 separate times. One for
Yeah.
each ending. I was just like, all right, guys, I get it. Like, sure, having something up your butt, I guess, is the worst thing that could ever happen to a straight man. But like, let's move on from this.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, there are a lot of jokes in here that are for straight men. That is for sure.
Yeah,
All of the schwing babe stuff,
Schwing.
like she's
Yeah,
a
the
babe. Like,
yeah, that's another Bill and Ted thing. They always call women babes.
yeah, I mean, it's just a parody of those people. Like, that's how people were.
I feel like this movie would have been rated PG if it had come out like 5 years earlier.
That's fair. Like,
You know,
multiple
like-
other movies we covered.
like, comparing this to like Top Gun, for instance. Raiders of the Lost Ark was extremely violent compared to this. But I just
Yeah.
feel like the only thing that makes this PG-13 is they say like the shitty Beatles is a joke they say at one point.
They make a lot of dick jokes in this movie. You kidding me?
But, well, yeah, sure. But, some of them are, I was going to say, like, the other thing is sexual innuendo. But, a lot of those jokes are still things that you would see in PG movies in the 80s. Like, the
Yeah.
fact that one of his cards said, "This man has no penis." A lot of people
I don't know why I'm
think
laughing at that now.
a lot of people think that's a reference to Ghostbusters because Bill Murray in Ghostbusters says, "This man has no dick." And that movie is rated PG.
Wow.
So I feel like if this movie had come out just a couple years sooner, it would have been PG and children would have loved it.
Oh my God. Here's something, because this is important for our show, is that, I guess it's not true because I've seen Coneheads. I made a statement that I have never seen a Chris Farley in anything.
Oh, wow.
And I've seen this movie.
Yeah?
And I didn't realize it because he's just not like relevant in my life.
Yeah.
Which is weird because he's relevant in so many people's lives.
This is also a very small role for
Very
Chris
small,
Farley.
but when he came up, I was like, oh, I have seen something with him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We've got Chris Farley movies on the radar.
For sure. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen a couple of them, but not all of them.
I don't know. Is he good? Is he funny? Is he funny as Mike Myers and Dana Carvey?
I think he's widely considered to be much funnier than both of those guys. but
Wow. I wanna
Probably
hear-
up to your opinion.
Okay, so you've seen Wayne, you've seen Garth. I want to know your favorite Mike Myers character and your favorite Dana Carvey character. Go. Hit me.
Favorite Dana Carvey character is Garth, for sure.
Oh,
this
you
is the
got a new
first time
favorite Dana Carvey character.
the first time I ever cared about Dana Carvey. And I did watch Master of Disguise.
Yeah, people love saying turtle, though.
Turtle.
Turtle.
Yeah, like Entourage.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Mike Myers, honestly, this movie kind of made me, I said I was indifferent towards him. This
Yeah.
movie kind of made me dislike him, to be honest.
Because of what you read or because of the movie?
Both. That scene where
Really?
he's in his tighty whities running around really turned me off. There are things about this
kidding me?
movie I liked with him, like what his squinty smile is kind of adorable.
You didn't
I
think
like
those
that.
whitey tighties were as good as Indiana Jones?
Indiana Jones did not wear tighty whities. I would remember. Trust me. We saw tighty whities in Rain Man, Top Gun, and this movie.
You didn't see him in Speed? I wish we did.
No, there were no tighty whities in Speed.
Man.
But yeah, Mike Myers, probably a favorite role of his. I don't know. Probably Austin Powers.
Wow. He's in the actually he's in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie.
I heard that, yeah, because I guess he was a huge Queen fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I actually think that this is my favorite Mike Myers. I think this made me like him more.
Wow.
Because I was never a Shrek fan, and Austin Powers is kind of like meh.
I agree.
know.
I loved it when I was younger, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess this movie, Mike Myers is at his best and his worst.
Worst behind the scenes and best in front of the camera, in my opinion.
Well, I've heard that he got a lot worse behind the scenes in later stuff because he ended up, he ended up being a bigger deal later on and could be more of a pain in the ass about stuff.
Wow.
Like apparently there were days when he just wouldn't show up and the crew would be standing around for hours before they got to go home because they were just waiting on him.
What a diva. You think he was like that in The Cat in the Hat?
Yes, actually, that is the
Really?
exact example that I was talking about.
I wouldn't show up for The Cat in the Hat either. That's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I guess that's Wayne's World.
I'll tell you what. My wife loves this movie. Quoted everything like 5 seconds before it happened when we watched it.
Wow, has seen it that many times.
Loves it.
That actually makes sense because I think this movie, one thing I thought of while I was watching it, very interestingly, was the Muppets. Like early Muppets movies, like the OG, the Muppet movie.
I love the
from the 70s.
Muppets.
I do too.
I love all the
this
Muppets.
This movie made me think of them because of how gentle it is. Like the
Yes.
Muppets are also gentle comedy. You're not usually laughing out loud, except occasionally at certain jokes.
No, it's just enjoyable. It's
and
just lovable.
It's sweet. It's
Yeah.
kind. It's big-hearted. That's what I think this movie is. It's like very much of a piece with the Muppets.
Yeah.
Just a little more adult, like a couple more sexual innuendos, but
And I'll be honest, I wish the Muppets got dark too sometimes.
yeah.
I would love that. Like a post-apocalyptic Muppets movie would be great to me. Some dark
Yeah.
stuff happening.
Talking about this movie with you has actually made me like it a little more than I initially did.
Right, because you're realizing that it wasn't supposed to be just hilarious. It was just fun, like the Muppets.
Well, I sort of I sort of had that thought going in. But yeah, I guess that sort of sweetness makes me like it more now that we've talked about it a little more. So I think I'm going to bump this up one more point in my
Wow.
ratings.
And what is that? What's that total? Hit me with it.
A 5 out of 10.
Wow, that's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
For me.
I liked this as much as you liked Raiders of the Lost Ark, apparently.
Wow. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hit you with mine.
Yep.
I think I'm solid on this one. 6 out of 10.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like it a little more than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
People are gonna hate that.
Yeah.
Are gonna hate it so much.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark I enjoyed a lot more than this movie.
This movie had a way better ending, or way better endings. Every ending in this movie was better than Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No.
Every ending.
No.
Come on. All right.
No. Absolutely not.
If you don't
Raiders of
think
the Lost
Jesus
Ark
is real, not Jesus. If you don't think God's real,
No, Raiders of the Lost Ark is still fun from like a, just a fantasy setting, even if you don't believe in the Bible. But this is, I disagree.
I don't know. I found this movie slightly more enjoyable.
That's fair.
Like I would put this on. I'd put this on again. I did put this on again. I would put this on again.
I would put this on if I were like up late at night and couldn't sleep and needed to like smoke a bowl and go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you were high. Yeah.
I was high when I watched this.
Wow, I'm surprised you didn't rate it a 6 as well. Then.
Yeah, it just didn't click with me. This, as I said, the sensibility wasn't my favorite. Like I recognize that other people would probably find this movie funnier than I did.
Oh, for sure.
I see why people would like it. But my personal preference is just, it's just not quite my style.
That's fair. I'm not passionate about this movie in any way, but
Yeah.
like I said, I saw it 3 years ago, and even watching it again today, this is probably the second time I've watched it ever. I still found it enjoyable just because it was, like you said, gentle. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not passionate about it anyway. It's not one of my favorite comedies. That's for sure.
Right. Well, I guess now at this point, all we got to do is go prep for our next movie.
Oh, and you're going to love this next movie.
Yeah, this is one that neither of us have seen.
Neither of us have seen. In the Venn diagram,
There's no Venn diagram.
I'm
There's
going to draw.
only two of
I feel
us.
like you're trolling me because, like, do you know what a Venn diagram is?
I'll send you an email after the episode, and you'll see what a Venn diagram is.
Oh my God! One circle on the left is me. One circle on the right is
There's-
you. They combine in the middle.
That's not. There's 3 circles. Regardless, the next movie that we're going to cover on this podcast,
That's exciting.
a movie called A League of Their Own.
Yes, starring.
People that I don't want to reveal just yet because
Okay.
we're going to talk about it in the next episode because I
Yeah.
want to hear who you think is in it.
Oh, it's gonna be good because I'm literally gonna be guessing out my ass. Like this is
Yeah.
none of it's gonna be accurate, but I'm excited. So if you want, feel free to watch the movie, join in with us, or don't.
Up to you.
Up to you.
Live your
It's
life.
your choice.
And we will see you on the next episode of
Culture Gaps. Party time. Excellent.
Culture Gaps.